and it looks like it's time to begin. This is a student learning project for Dr. Ivy's class, and I'd like you guys to meet John Smith. He's a 14-year-old 7th grade Caucasian at Vincent Middle High School. He's very soft-spoken, and he has 2 older brothers that are in high school. He is currently in 7th grade, but what makes him so unique is that he was held back last year, so he's repeating the 7th grade. Let's get to know John a little bit more and why I chose to do my project on him. So why did I choose John for this project? Well, what made him interesting is that he is supposed to be in 8th grade, but he's repeating 7th grade because of his math score. He caught my attention during one of the first tests. At the very end of the period, everyone had finished their test, and John had only completed one question. When I went over to him, I began reading the problems and helping him walk through the steps. Quickly, I realized that he could verbally explain himself, but he just wasn't able to write down his thoughts. So this encouraged me to think of ways that I could help John excel in the class, pass 7th grade, and become a more fluent and confident test taker. Some assessments that will be looked at are previous work from 2014, his first year in 7th grade, some current work from 2015 in which I was able to work with him and help him, an About Me project that was done at the beginning of the semester, and teacher observations that have been made throughout the semester according to test scores and class participation. Here are some samples from John's first year in 7th grade. On the left, there is a test where John scored a 29%. He answered all of the questions, but you can easily see he isn't sure what the questions are asking him. On the bottom right, John only answered 4 out of the 17 questions and got a 6%. This shows me that John becomes easily frustrated when he doesn't understand the work and is very easy to give up. Let's look at some more recent work. This is an assignment called an About Me project that was done at the beginning of the fall semester. The top example is another one of John's classmates' assignments. She's completed all the work required. She has 8 different boxes, everything is clearly organized, she has color added, and she has an order of operations in each box. However, look at the bottom examples. This is John's example. He has no work. He only completed 5 of the 8 requirements. He has no color. He has no image of himself. And this received a very low score. Additionally, it was also turned in late. This shows me that John's willingness to participate in class is very low. So how can I work to get him more involved in the classroom and more excited about learning math? Here are some teaching strategies and resources I used to help John become successful. We had verbal tests, matching tests, and shortened tests. I'm going to talk about these later on. I also extended the time of his test and allowed him an additional 15 minutes after each period to finish his test. I had copies of notes made so that he was able to read the writing more clearly since his writing is very small. I offered homework forgiveness, which allowed him the opportunity to make up assignments that he didn't fully complete or that he turned in late. I also allowed extra credit tutoring where he could come in the morning and the afternoons to receive extra one-on-one help, and in addition I would give him bonus points on his homework. And then I also incorporated a lot of group discussions, which worked out really well because he was much more willing to learn from his peers. At the beginning of the semester, I walked over to John while he was taking a test, and I asked him questions about the test. He was able to answer them verbally, however, he struggled to write down the answer he had just told me. This showed me that John had a literacy problem, which upon further investigation was true. John was on a 5th grade reading level and is currently receiving remediation to improve his literacy skills. In order to help him, I read questions aloud, recorded answers on my own paper, and I underlined key words to help him figure out what the question was asking. Here's an example of a verbal test that I gave to John at the beginning of this semester. This test is on the order of operations, and John made an 85, which was one of the highest in the class. What I would do is I would just walk him through with, should we do parentheses first, or what is our first step, or what do you think we should do next? And John would work the problems on his own. And you can even see in the middle of his paper he wrote down PEMDAS and then wrote down next to them what those meant. I like this quote from Jenny Pang when she said, "The speaking test is more like a conversation with your friend." I think that giving verbal tests really helped John relax and be more confident in his test-taking abilities. Another idea I had to help John was a matching vocabulary bank. And so on a vocabulary test, I cut out little strips of Post-it notes and I wrote the letter choices on them. This allowed John to remove the Post-it notes and rearrange them to help him figure out what the correct formation would be. Because they were sticky notes, John was able to continuously remove the Post-it notes if he found a better answer. Here's an example of the matching test that we used. We had the numbers lined up and we had the Post-it notes on a piece of paper. John was then able to take the Post-it notes, remove them, possibly move them to the side, and change the order of the sticky notes in whichever way worked best for him. This really helps hands-on learners, and I think this really helped John because he was able to rearrange and see what the best fit would be for him. So there's an example of how to use the matching test vocabulary bank. Another technique I tried was shortened tests. John struggled to complete his tests in the 45-minute class periods, and most of the time he'd only completed 1/3 of his test by the end of the period. So if we had a 30-question test, what I would do is I would select 3 to 4 problems from a particular section. This means that John would only have to answer 12 to 15 questions out of a 30-question exam. Here's an example of how I implemented this technique. On the left is a test I created, and if you notice there are 3 different sections. The stars indicate questions that John would need to answer. As you see, there are 2 to 3 problems per section. I would also ask prompting questions that led to independent discovery, and if I noticed that John was on the wrong track, I would redirect him in the right direction. So how did I impact John's learning? His test scores increased almost 50%, and he had an increase in class participation, especially when there were group assignments. He started turning in homework assignments, even if they were a day late, and he began coming for morning tutoring and afternoon tutoring to help increase his homework grades. He had a better attitude and more confidence in his test-taking abilities. Marva Collins said that a good teacher makes a poor student good and a good student superior. And most people would say that John would be a poor student, but in my eyes, he's a great student. On the left is a test from his first year in 7th grade where he scored a 6%. He answered less than half of the questions and seemed to have no hope or faith in himself. On the right is a test from this year and a test that we gave a verbal assessment on. He made a 92 and had one of the highest scores in the class and did not need to make corrections. This shows me that John is already superior and he just needs a little bit of encouragement. What did John teach me? John taught me that every student is different and that I need to figure out how I can accommodate each student and differentiate my test to accommodate the students. He also showed me that every student can succeed. Whether they're a poor student or a good student or even superior, that they can always achieve success. He also showed me that I can make a difference. Even when I think that I'm not making a difference, I really am. And that was something that I'll never forget. How has John impacted my future teaching? He showed me that I can alter my tests to meet students' needs, and I can alter them in more than one way, and more than one way at one time. I can differentiate my instruction to include learning environments that help all students, whether it's group discussions, peer tutoring, one-on-one tutoring. There's always a way to help. And I can develop relationships with students by showing them I care about their grades and their personal life. By checking in with them and showing them that I care, I can make a difference.